You're listening to 3 Days Through the Wood, a novel by Bear Mawasaki, as read by the author. Chapter 12. On Over the River. The clouds fell slowly to the earth that night to wallow in low-lying mists along the feet of the crowd as they strode silently to the river at town's edge. Moon and stars were carried by the waves across water black and the heavens. The reverie of the night was done, and now came the colder, quieter, deeper part of the evening that precedes long-awaited sleep. The wind was blowing gently. The air was damp, moist in that way that seems to crawl under your clothes and into your skin, sapping the warmth from your very soul. No one dared dip a toe in the black water, even the children who played along its shores. There were far more unattended children than Pill would have expected here. They raced along the edge of the water, playing chasing games and laughing amongst themselves, or battling with long pieces of driftwood in epic duels. "Hey, you kids!" a man yelled gently to a pair of fencing youths. A piece of rotted wood exploded over one of their heads in the moment of distraction. "You gotta set down the river sticks, all right?" Pill hadn't tried to keep Chirp from playing with the others, but the boy didn't seem all that interested anyway. He was less infatuated than usual with the stories of the changing plains, forests, and river wildlife. He stayed quiet next to Pill's side, holding his hand tight and following dutifully along. Maybe he was just tired. It had been a long couple of days after all. But for as much as Pill could feel the weariness working its way through his body, spreading from his hands and up his arms, down his chest to the feet barely managing to trudge forward, Chirp seemed effervescent. "I can't wait for you to meet Mum," he said, abuzz with flittery energy. "She's the best. She always takes me on hikes through the woods. We can all go together." "We spent all yesterday in the woods," Pill reminded him. "Are you really that eager to do it again?" "Yep," said Chirp. "It's different when you know where you're going, and Mum will be there. The right company can make all the difference. She's always telling me about flowers and trees and even what different rocks are called, you know. Did you know rocks have names? She knows where all the good hunting spots are and what you should and shouldn't eat, and she promised to teach me to catch frogs for real. You'll see, she's great." "She does sound fun," said Pill. He managed to smile softly. "Just wait until she hears that I caught a chicken. She'll be so proud." "Well, technically I caught the chickens, Chirp," Pill reminded him. "Mostly with my face, but you chased them right at me." "Wait until she hears how many chickens I chased. She'll be so proud." Pill was careful to keep only the sweetness and none of the bitter on his face. "Sounds like you boys had a good time," said a familiar molasses drawl. The Scarecrow stood beside them, still in mask and costume, still tall and broad as ever, and still wearing the same threadbare fleece as Pill. He saw they were both wriggling their fingers through the holes at its end. "We did," said Chirp. "The last 2 days were great." "Oh, shame these things always end so early," said the Stag, patting his heavy stomach. He marched up with the storm cloud in tow. "I tell you, I could have feasted for another 3 days." "It's good that things ended when they did," said the storm cloud, his eyes still watching far-off things. "Unless you like to eat snow and lightning and rain." "Too much of a good thing is no good to much of anybody," said the Scarecrow. "Special times coming by only once a year is part of what makes them so special." "Still," said the Stag, "I could have gone on a little longer, at least until the sun was up." "But then we would have missed the ferry." "Oh dear, oh no, oh no, oh no, oh no, oh my, did someone say we've missed the ferry?" A familiar sight in brown trousers and brown sweater vest, brown just about everything, raced over to the storm cloud. His face was hidden behind an owl's mask, but Pill recognized the spectacles over top, still turning his eyes 3 times their size. "You're right on time," he told the entomologist. A piercing whistle broke through over the quiet and shook him from his melancholy. In the direction of town, he could hear the bells tolling midnight proper. Chirp and the other children all shied from the sharp river noise at first, until realizing from the behavior of the adults that it really wasn't anything to fear. As a precautionary measure, however, many of the children were now gathered in protective clusters around larger-looking adults. More than a few had flocked to the Scarecrow. The ferry that emerged from over the dark river wasn't anything impressive. It was a fair size, to be sure, but it looked more like a large raft than it did a boat proper. A cabin the size of a toll booth was set near its edge. After its whistle ended, the craft drifted silently over the water until it crunched against the sand of the shore and whispered gentle as the wind. Men and women and children lined up to board. "All right, come on up," rasped a voice from the booth. "One at a time, there's space for everyone. Returnees in one line, new arrivals in the other. I'll be with each of you shortly. Have your coin ready." "Coin?" Pill asked quietly. "Were we supposed to pay? No one told me the ferry cost anything. I don't have any money." The Scarecrow looked at him reassuringly. "You sure you checked all those pockets?" Pill dug deep into the fleece, finding lint and dirt and more than a fair bit of straw. Leaves that had gathered on his walk were still stuffed in his sleeves. The others in the crowd around him were all digging for their fare as well, coming back with heavy, brass-looking tokens. Even Chirp was holding one. "Where did you get that?" he asked, relaxing. "I don't know," said Chirp. "I find stuff all the time." He continued to empty his pockets of lint and dirt and straw just like Pill had, but many more things fell from him as well. Acorns and pine cones littered the ground around him, along with the crumbs of cookies and cakes and the many things old Grizzly had set them off with. By the time he was done emptying his pockets, there was a small mound of treasures and food littered across the ground. The crowd was moving now. Men and women and children were all boarding the small ferry, taking their place in their groups and speaking softly amongst themselves. Those who looked confused on what to do were quickly met by old hands who had made the trip several times before, guiding the newcomers on their way. The stag helped herd the last of the stragglers together, and even the storm cloud helped by keeping watch on the horizon for any last-minute arrivals. A few did come tumbling through those rising mists, some tipsy and happy, others anxious that they might have missed their ride, but all of them found their way over in the end. The Scarecrow helped lift the children aboard, taking them one at a time in his strong arms and telling them to stay together while the ferryman collected their coin. Pill could see the ferryman now emerging from his booth. He wore an old and frayed uniform, neat sailor's cap tucked slightly off to one side. He didn't smile, but he wasn't entirely unfriendly looking either. He had the weary face of a man who had been doing his job for a very, very long time. Pill thought he looked maybe a smidge younger than the ancient harvestman, and the two shared a very similar look. "Pill, do you have your coin?" Chirp asked, tugging at his fleece. "You gotta find it. They're boarding now." Pill sighed. He had been wondering all night what his decision would be, if he would cross the river or not, and expected it to be a great deal more agonizing of a choice once he reached the shores, but instead his mind was set. "I'm not taking the ferry tonight, Chirp," he said. "What do you mean?" the boy asked, suddenly worried. "We're supposed to board now. Aren't we going across the river? My mom is waiting over there." "She's waiting for you, Chirp," said Pill as gently as he could. "Not for me." "I don't understand." "You're going home," Pill explained patiently. "The ferry will take you the rest of the way, and your mom will meet you on the other side, but I can't make that trip with you. I've got somewhere else I need to be." "Where?" Chirp demanded. "I'll come with you." "No," said Pill. "You've got family waiting on you. And so do I." "But we're supposed to stay together," Chirp said. He looked down, and rain fell from his face to the clouds at his feet. Pill noticed that Chirp was not the only one feeling this way tonight. Several of the children had clearly not made the journey before, and, as they often do when confronted with new things, they became nervous and upset. There were a few adults looking weepy as well. Some were crying tears of happiness, bidding fond farewell to the festivities for another year, while others looked sadder, like they were leaving a part of themselves behind on the lonely shore. Others didn't look very much bothered at all, as if they had made this journey so many times that the parting was no longer even a second thought, and those were the ones who helped comfort the others. "All aboard who are coming aboard," the ferryman announced. "Last trip of the season." "It's the last trip," said Chirp, stomping his foot in the mud. "If you don't come now, you'll miss your chance. We'll never find each other again." "You know that's not true," said Pill. He knelt into the mud, meeting Chirp at the eye. "It's just the last trip of the season. There'll be more. Now I need you to listen to me, okay, because it's very important. Do you remember how I told you that I couldn't remember anything that happened before we met? That I wasn't sure how I woke up in those woods?" "Yeah?" That's starting to change. Pill smiled. He was scared, but with that fear came the thrill of riding the verge of discovery. He was on the precipice of the unknown and was ready to reclaim it. I think I know which way I came from now, where I need to go. Your mom is waiting for you on the other side of the river, Chirp, and you should go to her. But mine is waiting for me back through the woods. It's time for me to go home. It's where I should have been heading all along.
But then we wouldn't have met,
Chirp sniffled.
and we wouldn't have met all those nice people on the way.
I know, and that's why I think I kept going. Pill smiled for the both of them. You're a good kid, Chirp, a really good kid, and I had to make sure that you found your mom all right. Now you will, and she's going to be so happy to see you. Everything's going to be fine.
No, it won't,
said Chirp.
You won't be with us. You're going to be alone.
Maybe for a little while, said Pill, nodding. But not forever. I'll be honest, because it's what you deserve, and it's how I should have been from the start anyway. I never liked people much. Honestly, I wasn't even sure how I felt about you at first. Chirp was grabbing the end of his shirt and pulling at it, looking down and fraying its edges like he had with his napkin. Pill bent even lower until his face was almost in the mud to keep meeting him by the eye. But the last 2 days I spent with you showed me how wrong I was to think that way. He held tight to the boy's hand. You love life, Chirp. You love living. You love to meet people and see new places and do new things, and that's amazing. You bring so much light wherever you go that you can't help but shine it on others, and it makes me want to see new places and do new things and meet new people too. I didn't realize it at first. I even tried to fight it, but it's the truth. You make me want to be a better person.
You are a good person,
said Chirp. Thank you, said Pill, and this time he meant it. But to be a good person, I think I have to stop running from my mistakes. I don't remember everything about who I am, not yet anyway, but I want to try, and to do that, I need to go back the way I came. Chirp chewed his lip, deep in thought. The tears weren't coming so quickly now, but his expression was heavy. He didn't speak right away, and Pill didn't push him, even as the crowd boarding the ferry slowly dwindled until there were only a few of them left along the shore waiting to board. Finally, wordlessly, Chirp reached out to hug him. We'll see each other again, said Pill. This isn't a goodbye, okay? It's see you later.
I believe you,
said Chirp.
If you don't cross next season, maybe we can meet again at the festival?
Count on it.
I'll bring my mum with me, and all the frogs we can catch. We'll bring them for the feast.
Chirp laughed at that because it was easier to laugh than it was to cry. I've never eaten a frog before, he said. That sounds great. Chirp smiled too, even through his tears.
Promise me then. Promise me we'll do this next year.
I promise, said Pill. That was enough. Chirp broke the hug. A proud little boy might have hidden his tears after that, but Chirp was more proud and honest and confident than anyone Pill had ever met, and he wore his tears openly.
Thanks for helping me all this way, Pill.
You're welcome, Chirp. All aboard who's coming aboard, the ferryman repeated. Let me help you there, young fella, drawled the Scarecrow. He wandered over to the two of them. There was no one else left aboard. That is, if you're ready to go.
I am,
said Chirp. He lifted his arms. The Scarecrow lifted him like he was a bale of hay and tossed him aboard the ferry. Chirp laughed as he flew through the air. And how about you? Asked the Scarecrow. You figure out where you're supposed to be? Pill looked to the boat, to the men and women and children unmasking at festivity's end, filled with relief for the long night winding down into a new dawn. He saw Chirp watching from the side of the boat, ready to embark to the other side of the river where his mum would be waiting for him. His eyes were shining with determination. This is as far as I'm going, said Pill. I'll be heading back now. He lifted his own mask and smiled wide. You be careful on that boat, Chirp. Don't go falling over the side. Chirp laughed and smiled and promised to be careful even as he leaned further over the edge to wave at him. The Scarecrow stood silently, waiting for Pill until he turned to face him again. You don't have to worry about the kid, he said, smiling through his half-lifted mask. "You'll be with good company. We'll get 'em the rest of the way. Just look out for yourself in that storm tomorrow. The way back isn't going to be easy." "I'm ready for it," said Pill. He never cared much for the cold, but the cold wouldn't stop him now. A little snow wouldn't stand in his way now that he knew where he was supposed to be. "Last call," said the ferryman. "All aboard who's coming aboard." "That'll be me, then," said the Scarecrow. He took off his wide straw hat and lifted his mask to the moon, breathing in a last cool breath of midnight air. He was sweating, glistening under the mask and moonlight, and his hair stuck to his head in short, uneven tufts. He looked to Pill and smiled. "You run back home now, all right?" Pill stood motionless at the edge of the shoreline, endless black waters rippling before him. Memory clicked into place suddenly as the man at the head of the table stood before him. Pill reached out and pulled the Scarecrow close, identical fleeces pressed tightly together in the night. They had so little time, but it was enough. This time, Pill was ready to let go. "Next year," the Scarecrow promised, stepping onto the ferry. "And forever." Pill waited by the edge of the shore as the boat drifted slowly back into the mists, crossing over the endless river that mirrored the midnight sky, headed off towards shores unknown. Chirp bounced eagerly along the edge of the boat, waving to Pill, and Pill waved back, his breaths growing more rapid and heavy until he was thankful when the others finally fell from sight, and he broke on the shoreline. He didn't collapse out of despair, but because something he had had trouble accepting finally became true for him, and he understood that the things we love have a way of finding us again. He turned from the dark river, back toward the storm growing on the horizon, watching as thunder and snow felled over the vast wood ahead of him. He wasn't done yet. His memories weren't complete. He found the piece that he thought was missing, but now he needed to find himself. It was time to set back the way he came.